Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight, the BJP has named a surprise pick as the new Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. Mohan Yadav is a leader of the Yadav OBC community, 58 years old. OBCs make up more than half of the state's population, but interestingly, the Yadav community is not among the most influential. In a key move seen as an emphasis on unity, Mr. Yadav was nominated by the outgoing Chief Minister Shivraj Chouhan, a four-time head of the state government. Other senior leaders, Prahlad Patel, Narendra Singh Tomar and Kailash Vijayvargiya supported the proposal. Next up on the show, the Supreme Court today upheld the centre's move to scrap the special status to Jammu and Kashmir under Article 370 of the Constitution, a landmark verdict. A five-member bench of the Supreme Court led by the Chief Justice ruled that Article 370 was a temporary provision to ease Jammu and Kashmir's merger with India. But there was some welcome news as well. The Supreme Court suggests that there are elections next year. And finally on this program, startling high-resolution satellite images that we'll share with you on this program indicate that ongoing border talks between Bhutan and China to formally demarcate their boundary have not prevented Beijing from continuing unsanctioned construction activity in North Bhutan's Jakarlung Valley. What are the implications for India? We'll be looking at that closely. But first, the big story. The BJP has named a surprise pick as the new Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. Joining us for more on this, I'm joined by my colleague Maria Shakil, Amitabh Tiwari and Rashid Kidwai. They're all with us. Maria, why does the BJP believe that this is perhaps a winning choice?
Yes, because in the post-Mandal era, what the BJP had done was to focus on non-Yadav OBCs, because they thought that because the Yadav politics was being dominated by parties which were largely of this dominant caste, be it in the state of Uttar Pradesh, that is the Samajwadi Party, or in the state of Bihar when you had an RJD. So the BJP came up with this formula of non-Yadav OBCs. But look, this is for the first time that they have decided to have a Yadav named Chief Minister. Yes, in the state of Madhya Pradesh also, the party has had OBC chief ministers, be it in Uma Bharti or in Babulal Gaur. But I think the choice of a Yadav chief minister and someone who has worked with Shivraj Singh Chouhan, complete surprise pick, is sending a message that in the states such as Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, this caste, which is the dominant caste in these states, can also be considered for future leadership representation. I think what's important here is also sending a message that Yadavs in the state of Madhya Pradesh, Vishnu, are just 6%. So even among the OBCs, they aren't really the most influential or the most dominant. But in other states, they are the dominant OBCs. So the BJP is sending a message that in just those 6%, they are trying to look at a new caste combination. They also understand that because they have chosen a tribal chief minister in the neighboring state of Chhattisgarh, they want to do that tightrope walk of caste balancing. But he also comes from the state, from that Ujjain constituency, that becomes an important part, because going forward, that pitch of Temple Town becomes significant in the run-up to 2024.
Maria, thanks very much. Amitabh Tiwari, what does this mean for Shivraj Singh Chouhan? He's done so well in the recent past. Where does this leave him?
See, it's an end of an era for Shivraj in MP for sure. However, since he has led the party to a more than two-thirds majority mark in Madhya Pradesh, it seems that the party will utilize him in the center. His skills, knowledge, and his pan-India appeal is likely to help the BJP in many Hindi heartland states, and he has been a star campaigner even in the southern states in the past. So there is a Ministry of Agriculture position vacant, as Narendra Singh Tomar has become the speaker. So he has led an agriculture revolution in the state. So the party might use him there, or even as a state president in post JP Nadda era. Because see, if the BJP comes or forms the government in 2024 at the center, it does need leaders like Shivraj Singh Chouhan at the center to manage the deft politics and the social coalitions which it has been able to crack so far.
Okay. Rashid Kidwai, what do we know about Mohan Yadav? It's not a familiar name across the country. Certainly he's had a role in MP politics for a long period of time. But what can you tell us about him?
I think Vishnu, first of all, you see, he is what the BJP is doing in principle is reducing, or for that matter, recognizing every party leader as essentially fundamentally as a party worker, and they are trying to send this line that anybody can become. Can hold any position, and that's why this thing, there is no political logic or rationale in a traditional sense. If the idea was to consolidate OBC voters, then Mr. Shivraj Singh Chouhan has a far more stronger credentials, visibility, etc., as compared to Mr. Mohan Yadav. Mr. Mohan Yadav is, of course, he's a fine person. He comes from Ujjain, and he was a higher education minister. But Madhya Pradesh of late is not known for its kind of any achievement or big thing in terms of higher education or so. I think Mr. Yadav has been picked, as Maria was saying, as a kind of optics and a signal to other states, whatever that India Alliance was trying to do in caste-based politics, etc. To my mind, Vishnu, it is too much of experiment that is being done on the part of the BJP and Narendra Modi, Amit Shah. This is the same thing what Congress used to do during Indira Gandhi time and Rajiv Gandhi time. But remember, they paid a very high price of promoting all kind of people in the guise of tokenism in one form or another. Ultimately, end of the day, people are voting for BJP in the name of Mr. Narendra Modi. So others are becoming inconsequential. To my mind, it's a repeat of something what happened in Gujarat some time back, where Mr. Bhupender Patel became a chief minister and credited with highest ever victory, the biggest ever victory in Gujarat. But in effect, the vote was for Mr. Narendra Modi. Similarly, Madhya Pradesh also, it seems the BJP wants to assert politically that it was a vote for Mr. Modi, and all other players, including be it Mr. Shivraj Singh Chouhan, Narendra Singh Tomar, or others, it was inconsequential.
Amitabh Tiwari, we've had a Vishnu Devsai is clearly a surprise in Chhattisgarh. Mohan Yadav is a surprise over here. What does that potentially augur for senior political leaders like Vasundhara Raje? I mean, is the writing on the wall?
She might be having sleepless nights now, because we are seeing surprise names both in Chhattisgarh and in Madhya Pradesh. However, the woman factor, the Mahila factor is key here. There have been no woman chief minister, deputy chief minister, or even speaker in both the states. The Mahila factor has propelled BJP to victories in all these states. So that could come as a relief to Vasundhara Raje. However, there is competition. So we might see some woman CM or even a deputy CM in Rajasthan for that matter. And coming on the aspect of why a Yadav CM, because see, BJP has used a wedge between Yadavs, the dominant, and the non-Yadav OBCs in Bihar and UP, and used it pretty effectively. Now, with the non-Yadav OBC vote in its kitty, it is sending a signal to the Yadavs in Bihar, UP, that even BJP and not only Samajwadi Party or RJD can install a Yadav chief minister. So it is trying to woo the younger Yadav community or the voters in both these states. And in Madhya Pradesh, Yadavs are not the dominant caste. See, there is no Yadav versus non-Yadav OBC politics here. In fact, there is no dominant OBC caste in Madhya Pradesh. All the three main subcaste, Kurmi, Lodhis, and Yadavs are 6% of the population. So this is a good laboratory sort of, or a state to experiment such a move, because the appointment of a Yadav CM in MP is not going to be challenged by the non-Yadav OBCs, because there is no confrontation here as such. So it is just trying out, as Rashid Ji is saying, because most of the votes anyways BJP feels are being coming to them or accruing to them in the name of Modi. And when the Lok Sabha elections are held, the Modi factor largely is going to play a key role.
Rashid, one final question to you. Doesn't this also send a larger message to those in the BJP that you may have done well in elections, you may have a reputation that sort of precedes you, but when it comes to choices, when it comes to party requirements, it could be anybody. And unlike other parties or leaders who go into a sulk, the BJP doesn't quite have that culture, nor does it have the appetite to entertain leaders who go into a sulk.
Yes, I think, Vishnu, you have asked a very pertinent issue. This is, of course, very valid and true. This works as long that kind of, the winning streak goes. Like it happened in the case of Congress party for a long time, that Congress had this leadership of Indira Gandhi and people were voting for whatever the socio-economic agenda she was offering and her own personality. But when things became, bad, you remember Congress did have, three chief ministers in Uttar Pradesh, I mean, in a 5-year cycle, in Bihar, in several other states. But they paid a very heavy price for promoting, so to say, politically lightweight. Again, I'm saying the fundamentals of politics cannot change. In parliamentary democracy, cabinet rank, position of chief minister, cabinet ministers is meant for people who have, kind of roots in society, people, who have a political standing on their own. They may be a supreme leader, a very powerful leader, but then others are also, they matter. But here, a concerted effort is being made to recognize just one, power center and made to look politically speaking again that others are, lightweight. They are at the mercy of the senior leadership or the party high command. Daya and Kripa. So that kind of thing is there. That this tokenism works. Let me just very quickly, Vishnu, remind you, there was a Yadav chief minister of Madhya Pradesh, that Babulal Gaur, that Maria was also referring. There was elections in 2007 and 2012 in which Mayawati and Akhilesh Yadav won respectively. So it was of no consequence that having a Yadav chief minister from Madhya Pradesh made no difference in Uttar Pradesh. He had become a home minister.
Well, one way or the other, it is absolutely interesting. I do need to move on to my next topic. But for those just tuning in, Madhya Pradesh has a new chief minister. Mohan Yadav will have 2 deputy chief ministers. The second chief minister in the recent round of elections to be a surprise pick as far as the BJP is concerned. We're going to move on now to our next big topic. The Supreme Court today upheld the centre's move to scrap the special status to Jammu and Kashmir under Article 370 of the Constitution. A 5-member bench of the Supreme Court, led by the Chief Justice, ruled that Article 370 was a temporary provision to ease Jammu and Kashmir's merger with India. The court said Jammu and Kashmir did not retain sovereignty when it joined India, and that its constituent assembly ceased to exist the moment that it did merge with India. Well, joining us now, Tanveer Sadiq of the National Conference. We're also joined by Ranveer Pathania of the BJP. I'd like to thank you all for being with us. Tanveer Sadiq, let me come to you first. This is something which has been debated endlessly for decades. And of course, the BJP, the government moved in and they abrogated it a couple of years back. But now that it's gone, why does this necessarily still have to be a political focal point of the NC, when in fact, perhaps the bigger point is that there are elections coming up, which is good news for everyone?
Vishnu, first of all, yes, it is disappointing, but it's not disheartening. The fact that we did not go to the Supreme Court for elections, we did not go to the Supreme Court for statehood. We went for something that was snatched from us illegally, unconstitutionally, and we feel that way still. Please understand, today is a good day for BJP and probably a bad day for us. But in past, there have been verdicts, there have been judgments in Sampath Prakash where the Article 370 was held, the special status was respected. Even they went to an extent of saying that 370 was permanent. Yes, it took 70 years for the BJP to come and stand here today. It may take many more years for us.
But you see, Tanveer, this is the part I don't understand. It might take many more years for you to do what? 370 it's been removed. The Supreme Court said there's nothing wrong with that. So as far as Kashmir is concerned, that is, and Jammu, it is over and done with. So is that not something that needs to be put aside? Because it's not one judge, it's not 2 judges, it's 5 judges, and they've ruled.
Fair enough. Vishnu, I'll tell you. When the same judgment came from 3 judges and unanimously, I didn't see any of you climbing and saying that it's done. Why do you want to talk about 370 abrogation of Article 370? Yes, today a 5-judge bench turned that 3-bench verdict. Tomorrow there will be 7 benches. We are hopeful. It's like something that we feel was done unconstitutionally. Now, there is one important point. If it is for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, then people of Jammu and Kashmir were not part of it. And that is what we feel. If this was all done through a proper channel, through the party, through the people of Jammu and Kashmir, maybe we would have agreed to that. But today it was done, which we feel was unconstitutional. I have all the respect for the judgment, but the fact that one of the judges said that the people of Jammu and Kashmir had to be heard, unfortunately, in this verdict, in this judgment, the people of Jammu and Kashmir have not been heard.
All right, Ranbir Pathania, let me come to you next. I think there are 2 points which the Supreme Court has endorsed today, which are important. Firstly, a quick restoration of statehood for Jammu and Kashmir, and secondly, elections. Would you suggest that both of these, are win-win solutions in terms of where Jammu and Kashmir needs to go within a finite period of time?
Absolutely, Vishnu. Jammu and Kashmir stands at a very, very defining moment. Post 5th of August 2019 and now 11th of December 2023. The road for elections has ultimately been cleared. A post-dated check for statehood had also been given, and Jammu and Kashmir is still special. It is special with regards to the central assistance. We enjoy 100% Ayushman Bharat coverage. No category, no list in Jammu and Kashmir. We stand at a higher budget. We stand in a better security scenario. We stand with better tourist infrastructure and a tourist influx also. People and youth, especially females and young girls, they are posting their selfies from Polo Market in Srinagar at 11 in the night, at the dead of the night, 11, 12 also. So Article 370, my basic point remains, and the predicament also remains, that the Valley-centric parties, including the esteemed National Conference, there's an adage that every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. So these, with due respect, all these Kashmir-centric parties, they are not able to come to understand that ultimately the ground has slipped under their feet. This article, which was till now, it was an article of deception, article of demagogy. It was an article of deceit. It was a breeding ground for parasites. It did not give anything. It only snatched. Jammu and Kashmir did not have right to education as a fundamental right. Jammu and Kashmir had not right to food. Jammu and Kashmir had not right to Fair Compensation Act. Jammu and Kashmir had not Forest Rights Act. No political reservation for STs. SCs without a right to vote. Women losing their right to acquire property and employment in Jammu and Kashmir. So the basic point, you see, I use the word, it's a defining movement. Sir, you should have started, there was a different wave going on through the country.
Sure.
Today, an Indian origin man has become a Prime Minister of England. Another Vivek Ramaswamy vying for the presidency of USA. You wanted to keep Jammu and Kashmir as a stagnant pond. These voices should have come from Kashmir, that we should remodel it.
Okay. Ranbir, half a second. Ranbir, half a second. Let me just bring in Radha Kumar as well. Radha, for an entirely new generation of Kashmiris, do you believe that the Supreme Court verdict today takes away at the heart of their Kashmiri identity? Or do you feel, as a non-political observer, that in fact there is a generation of Kashmiris out there who want growth, development, education, who aren't really as concerned about the implications of 370?
Vishnu, I don't think you can pit the two against each other. If you look at the younger generation and the question of growth, employment and opportunities, then actually they had the highest rates of growth, the highest opportunities during the years of the Omar Abdullah administration. Kashmir prospered greatly, partly because they had a very sympathetic administration at the center that the state government could work with. Now, let me say that since then, there has never been a government at the center that the state government has been able to work with. The government at the center has disregarded everything that the elected administrations of the state have said. More than that, let me come to the point that I think one of your former speakers was making about the judgment. Even though none of us had high expectations, I do feel personally anguished, because as far as I can see, what this judgment has said is that the Kashmiris' right to consultation, the right or essential right in a democracy to consult, to put your views across, to influence policies, all of that has just been taken away at the stroke of a pen. I feel that if the first really black day for democracy was what happened on August 4th and 5th, 2019, then this is the second really black day.
Ranbir Pathania, how would you say that? That, the question I was asking Radha was whether a younger generation really cares about this, or whether they feel that their identity as Kashmiris has been aggrieved. She seems to suggest that the two cannot be looked at through the same prism. How would you respond to that?
With due respect to Radhaji, and if she correctly remembers, I am the one who put up the case before her when she was the appointed interlocutor for Jammu and Kashmir. I was leading the deputation of Jammu Bar Association, and you did not even make a mention of the memorandum of the Jammu Bar Association while finalizing your report. Yeah. Anyhow, due respect to you, madam, my point remains
Actually, that's not true. That's not true. You're
that's
wrong.
what it was true, madam. You did not even mention
our. If you look at it,
you reported Facebook messages from Kashmir, madam, and you were
unfair. Have you read our report?
I have read it, madam. I have read it. I have written an article on it, in also published in Hindustan Times. Also, you might not have read it. So let me come to the point.
It is listed. If you had told me, I would have produced it and shown it on Vishnu's show. It is listed.
I'll seek another time from you, madam. So my
focus on this point,
madam, I'm virtually from Jammu and Kashmir. We are the
I don't like people misrepresenting and factually twisting.
And I don't like people. I don't like people having a prejudice. I don't like people having a prejudice, having a premeditated bent of mind. That's why I made it before this London panel, sir. Article 370 was virtually placing an epicenter.
A fact with an
it was
accusation.
Absolutely placing an epicenter in a very, very sensitive area. And the tremors of that earthquake, it had a pan-India effect also, and virtually it was a conflict zone in South Asia also. So the very idea of placing Article 370 had its inception in the two-nation theory. It was virtually dealing Jammu and Kashmir on a communal basis also, and a communal agenda Bharat Sarkar accused to it. But ultimately the Bharat Sarkar recognized it. In 1953, Sheikh Abdullah Sahab was arrested, his Sarkar was dismissed, and ultimately integration of Jammu and Kashmir started. So thereafter also, my respectful submission means that the Kashmiri-based parties, they should be clear, they should be coherent. They shouldn't indulge in flip-flops. First of all, Sheikh Abdullah brought the special status, and then he fell out with Jawaharlal Nehru, and ultimately his government gone. Then 1975, once again, Beg and Partharastri accord, and Sheikh Abdullah once again said,
on every single fact you have put forward.
You have
Ranbir, half a second. Let Dr. Radhakwar.
That's the problem, madam. That's the problem. You have the prejudiced mind. With due respect,
Radha, I'll come to you next. Ranbir, finish your point. Yes.
Yes. So I'm coming to it. We should have, in any case, in Bharat Sarkar, I don't say it was Jawaharlal Nehruji's idea. I don't say it is Congress' idea. This was the Bharat's idea. If we should accept it that India gave that special, the Indian Constitutional Assembly gave this to Jammu and Kashmir. So we should have kept it as a vibrant and a living document, as a living institution, as a living part. We held the cards close to us. We said we will not give state subjects to the refugees who rejected the two-nation theory, who came across to the country. They became the prime minister, they became the home minister. But in Jammu and Kashmir, after 7 decades, we will not allow them to vote. We will not allow them to study in the educational institution. We will debar them from the right to have government service also. We will deny the rights to women marrying outside Jammu and Kashmir. So we will deny the justice to SCs and STs. We will deny the right to fair compensation, the right to education.
All right, Ranbir, I take your point. One second, Ranbir, I've got it.
To flourish.
Let's right. So Radha, to those points on how the revocation of 370 ensures more rights for Kashmiris, how would you respond?
I would say you will have to go right by right. Now, by the way, in our report, we did recommend that refugees from POK should have the right to vote and other state subject rights. We also talked about SC/ST rights. All of this has been discussed. Now, as a matter of fact, SCs and STs in Jammu and Kashmir have traditionally been somewhat better off than in the rest of the country. They have not had to suffer the kind of caste and tribe discrimination and brutality that we have seen in other parts of our country. Now, you know, Vishnu, you asked an important question about the younger generation.
No, but Radha, why don't you complete this point? Because and sure, you by all means talk about that next.
Yes.
But why don't you finish this point? Because if Ranbir has listed, and I have a list also of what has been done in the last couple of years, but if the revocation of this means that there is greater integration of Kashmiris with the rest of the country, greater rights for women as well, I understand when you're saying that, no, you proposed this in your report as well, but it's now the law, it's part of the system, right? Therefore, why don't we welcome greater rights?
There aren't greater rights. So let's go to your point about greater rights. People in Jammu and Kashmir, which at that point included Ladakh, had the right to free education to the postgraduate level. Now they have the right to free education to, 10th grade of school. That is a huge lowering of rights, not a raising of rights. When it comes to ownership of property, the Jammu and Kashmir High Court ruled 15 or 20 years ago that women who marry, that Kashmiri women who married men outside or Kashmiri men who married women outside, they would have property rights. So that issue, I'm very sorry, has been settled a very long time ago. And I'll tell you something else, that as someone who grew up and lived in Delhi all my life, and who has traveled the length and breadth of our beloved country, the one place I have always felt completely safe in as a woman is Kashmir. And this nonsense about not being able to go out before, absolutely untrue.
All right.
It's absolutely untrue.
Okay, one second. All right. Ranbir wants to come in on this.
Late at night.
I get your point about safety in Jammu and Kashmir. I must confess, in having reported from Kashmir for decades now, off and on, traveling in night, given the extremism and the security situation, was extremely frightening. I've done it a few times. It was morbidly frightening a couple of years back. The number of incidents of terror have actually declined. Separate point, but Ranbir had a point to make. Go ahead.
Yes. So Vishnu, I will again stick to the earlier point I was making out. You see how narrow-minded and parochial we had been in dealing with the people of Kashmir. A popular shrine, Amarnath, Baba Amarnath, which constitutes the core of the Kashmir's tourism, the core of the Kashmir's spirit of tolerance, the spirit of coexistence. Muslims founded it, and it's a shrine which is revered, which is visited by Hindus across the globe. And Omar Saab delivered the statement, "Ek inch bhi zameen nahi degi." Mehbooba says that it is in danger to Kashmiri. Kashmiri is in danger. You see, once again, Mehbooba ji is saying that there will be nobody to pick up Indian tricolor. Farooq Saab seeking support from China for special rights to Jammu and Kashmir. So it was of a narrow-mindedness and parochialness. With due respect to, once again, to Madam Radhati, you are saying that male marrying females, there was no embargo to males marrying females. The only embargo was with regard to females marrying males outside Jammu and Kashmir. I think you should please correct your statement. This is an incorrect statement you have made before this learned channel. So my respectful submission that now there's a new defining moment in the political history of Jammu and Kashmir. We need to work out. First of all, 5th of August 2019, and now this 11th December, we need to work together for a Naya Jammu and Kashmir, a Jammu and Kashmir which has a spirit of cohesiveness, spirit of coherence, spirit of love, mutual tolerance, and ultimately Jammu and Kashmir is virtually a miniature India. So many cultures, so many languages, so many practices, so many graces, and Jammu and Kashmir should become a messenger of peace, a messenger of brotherhood, and a messenger of mutual coexistence to the entire world, as Jammu and Kashmir was.
Okay, I just wanted to go back to Tanveer Sadiq for a moment, as I do have a time limit on this. Tanveer, the point which has been mentioned, several points by the BJP in today itself, that while there was an exceptionally difficult period for Kashmir. All of us saw that once 370 was abrogated, whether it was a loss of communications, whether there was greater security, whether there was a democracy being held back, etc., etc. There was also several things which have benefited the state. For example, incidents of terror have declined, the establishment of a 3-tier Panchayati Raj system, elections to block development councils have been held, skill development for 2,000 plus tribals, scholarships to 46,000 students. I could go on and on. IITs, IIM, AIMS, Jammu, now operational, the number of tourists has come up. So,
Vishnu,
is this not correct?
You know, everything that you're talking about is before 2019. Unfortunately, when you let people like Ranbir peddle lies
1.85 crore tourists visited Jammu and Kashmir till October this year.
I just want to point this out, which Madam Radha also pointed out. The thing that he's talking about has been addressed by the High Court. How many times do we need to tell him that? Unfortunately, they keep on peddling lies. The fact that you're talking about IIMs, AIMS, that has already been done during Dr. Manmohan Singh. There is nothing new except for yes. The only thing is a few tourists have increased in Srinagar, Gulmarg, Pahalgam and Sonmarg maybe. Nothing more than that. The Amarnath Yatri and the Vaishno Devi Mata Yatri, the 1 crore mark was crossed when Umar Abdullah Saab was the chief minister. So please don't tell me that nothing happened before 2019.
No, but just correct me if I'm wrong. Tanvir, I'm asking you a basic question since I don't know. Were the IITs, the IIM and the AIMS in Jammu operational? Was it operational when Manmohan Singh announced it?
Started then.
Ask him when it was formally sanctioned.
You can't when it was formally sanctioned, Tanvir sir. Ask him when it was sanctioned. The tunnel was started by Dr. Manmohan Singh. You can't have it made in one day.
So the operationalization of the IIT, IIM and AIM has happened now, right?
If a scheme is done for 4 years, it will take 4 years
between
to What kind of an argument is my friend
between the
saying
time that it was sanctioned and the time that it was operational, what stopped it from being made operational earlier?
Nothing. It takes time. It takes a couple of years to build.
So the fact that it's been operationalized now is a bad thing?
It takes the
political
will.
No, it's not. But why? How can they take credit for that? Something that Dr. Manmohan Singh started. The Z-Mode tunnel, the Banihal tunnel, the highway, the city roads, everything was done before them, not after 2019. There is nothing. And I'll just add here, Jammu and Kashmir in the case of poverty has been better than any other states in the country. In terms of violence, crime, it has been much better. Now, please tell me, I know militancy.
Before 1947.
Let me. I didn't interrupt. I don't interrupt.
Ranbir, go ahead. Finish your point. Sorry, Tanvir Sadiq, go ahead. Ranbir, I'll come to you after that. Tanvir Sadiq, finish your point. Yeah.
I agree. Yes, militancy created a lot of problems. Unfortunately, you talked about that you used to cover. Of course, you used to cover, but you would be scared, driving or walking during the night. Yes, militancy, but militancy was not the result of Article 370. Article 370 was well before 89. Why wasn't then Article 370 a problem? If Pakistan a problem, you need to either tell us that Pakistan is the problem or 370 is the problem. Because if 370 is the problem, then there should be not even a single incident of militancy anywhere in the country, anywhere in the state.
All right.
Number two, I'll just finish with one point. No matter what my friend from the BJP says, the day you hold elections, now it has been 8 years since the last election and 5 years since governor ruled. Everything that you asked, everything that my friend from BJP said, you'll get an answer.
All right. Okay. Well, we all welcome elections. Ranbir, you have a right to respond, but please keep it short. I need to move on. Yeah.
You see, my very, very respectful submission, sir, is this tutu and this way and that way, we need to work together. This is what I'm saying. Jammu and Kashmir is the crown. Jammu and Kashmir shall remain a crown. These 6 or 7 decades saw bloodshed, saw division on caste communal lines or regional lines. Before 1947, Jammu and Kashmir was a happy oasis of a state. So let's work together. Let's work for a cohesive Kashmir, cohesive Jammu and Kashmir. We shouldn't fall to certain mundane and nasty considerations also. And my due respects and advice to Umar Saab also, then we should come to realize where we are standing and what we are doing. You are advising Bharat Sarkar to talk to Pakistan. This is not your domain, sir. This is not your domain. You are saying 1 inch zameen nahi denge parliament pe. This is not a good statement. I respect Umar Saab like anything else. we need to,
not
we
go
need to.
have lunch and dinner with the Prime Minister.
Sir,
of
you
Pakistan.
cannot advise the Bharat Sarkar. You are nobody to advise Bharat Sarkar. You are
All right, okay, all right, both of you,
Prime
let's
Minister of
end it.
Pakistan.
But I do
You are
believe,
the
one sec,
party, sir.
let's not shout and scream and do any of that. I think we can all agree that elections in Jammu and Kashmir are welcome.
That's it.
I think we can all accept that a return to statehood, which is what the Supreme Court has asked for, is a welcome move. There'll
It's
always
not a
be a
welcome
debate.
move, Vishnu. I wish they had given a timeline. How many more years do you need to restore statehood?
All right, that's a fair point. Hopefully, with the Supreme Court having announced that, there will be some progress towards that. But I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. We respect all opinions on this program. I need to take a short break. There's a lot more coming up, including very serious developments in Bhutan, with China continue to occupy illegally Bhutanese territory. I've got satellite pictures and a full-fledged report coming up, and then an interview with one of India's finest ambassadors to Beijing in the past. Startling high-resolution satellite images that we'll now share with you indicate that ongoing border talks between Bhutan and China to formally demarcate their boundary have not prevented Beijing from continuing unsanctioned construction activity in North Bhutan's Jakarlong Valley. The extent of the Chinese construction in this also suggests that Thimphu may have no option but to accept the fait accompli presented by the Chinese in this area, which incidentally lies just 50 kilometers from Bhutan's eastern border with Arunachal Pradesh. Now, the satellite image that you see here covers the expanse of Chinese construction activity in one part of the Jakarlong Valley to Bhutan's north. You just saw one Chinese-built enclave. You can now see the road network, and finally, in a few seconds, what you will see is a second Chinese enclave in this area. So where is this area? On this map, we can show you 4 areas where China has illegally entered Bhutan and constructed villages and military outposts. Let's zoom into the Jakarlong area that we are focusing on. The yellow area is what we will be closely looking at. You can also see the Chinese road network clearly marked here. The image that you now see is from August 2021. The Chinese had entered this area, but take a look at this. This is the very same area, entirely built up. There are more than 100 residential homes here. This image just 4 days old. Let's now give you another example. What you see here is a dug up area from August 2021 next to a road under construction. This is the same area, a second new enclave in the Jakarlong area that we are focusing on. Again, this image just 4 days old. While the area that we have shown you concerns a Chinese cross-border land grab of North Bhutan, a tiny country, let's turn our attention to another area, Doklam, where India and China had a tense 2-month-plus standoff in 2017. Let's zoom into the Doklam area. The area to the left of the image is where the 2017 standoff between India and China took place. We marked that entire area. But it is this area to the east and directly adjacent to Doklam which is now of great concern to Delhi, the Amuchu River Valley, Bhutanese territory where China is illegally constructing villages. In simple terms, China is constructing south from this axis, and India cannot accept any further creep towards the Siliguri corridor. That's the narrow sliver of land that connects the northeast with the rest of the country. Well, joining us now, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, India's former envoy to China, somebody who's looked at Chinese actions all across our frontier very closely. Indeed, thanks so very much for being with us. Is there anything that India can do other than to just watch as the Chinese just relentlessly occupy illegally territory in Bhutan to the east, to the north, and to the southwest?
You're absolutely right, Vishnu, that the images that you have shown from a few days ago seem to indicate very clearly that the Chinese are building all kinds of infrastructure in the northern part of Bhutan. As you know, Bhutan is a very small country with a population of just 7.5 lakh people. It has a very small army which is not capable of tracking developments all over their borders across the length and breadth of the country. And therefore, it's quite possible that the Chinese have actually built these kind of structures well into Bhutanese territory. What we do about them is a different matter altogether. There's not much that India can do, but I think we can join our voice with that of the international community to call out Chinese actions.
Ambassador, isn't this essentially about China pushing south towards the Siliguri corridor, or in areas where, Bhutan has been a wedge between India and China?
No, that's absolutely right, Vishnu, that they are pushing south. The unfortunate part of all this is it shows China's expansionist mind, the way China thinks, the way China is aggressive across the globe, but particularly in its border regions. And I think that's what's happening in the northern part of Bhutan. I think we all have to work together with the international community and tell China that this is not going to be tolerated by anyone. But it is far away from India, Vishnu, so we have to leave it to the Bhutanese to handle it as they think best.
It's just about 50 kilometers on the east, Ambassador, about 200 kilometers from Doklam. So it's relatively close, but you're quite right. I mean, we don't share a boundary with, or in that area or close by. I'm just trying to understand the pattern of the Chinese over here, whether it's in the South China Sea all the way to eastern Ladakh. It is to occupy, to construct, and then to negotiate. In other words, just sort of say that we are here, we built up, and therefore this is ours. It seems to be a thought out tactic of theirs, and we've seen it everywhere.
Absolutely. You are 100% correct there, Vishnu, that what the Chinese do, whether it's in the South China Sea or now here in northern Bhutan, that they take actual control of the ground and then they negotiate from there. But in our negotiations and in negotiations that other countries have with China, they should very clearly tell them that whatever has happened on the ground is one thing, but our claims on what we think is our territory is irrespective of what the situation on the ground is. And you're absolutely right that what China believes in is to change the status quo on the ground. It does that everywhere, including in the South China Sea, on the India-China boundary, and now in northern Bhutan.
Ambassador, and that's the key point, because there are agreements which they violate. Article 7 of the 2015 bilateral agreement between India and China clearly says that the status quo of populations in areas which are disputed must be maintained. The Chinese don't seem to care about that. They construct in areas, and therefore if you have a village here or a village there, you say, no, there's a village, it's my village, the intention is to populate, and therefore this is my land. But that is against the text of that agreement. It is against that spirit of that agreement. So, I mean, it just goes to show they don't really care about what they signed.
You're right, Vishnu. And in fact, even Bhutan and China have certain agreements between them which are very similar to the agreements between India and China. And the crux of those agreements, the starting point of each of those agreements, is that neither side will change the status quo on the ground. And this sort of construction work that you have highlighted in your story tonight, Vishnu, clearly shows that that is not the case. The Chinese keep changing the status quo on the ground, whether it's in the South China Sea, whether it's in northern Bhutan, or whether it's on the India-China boundary. So that is something that is not, keeping to the letter and rule of the agreements that the Chinese themselves have signed with some of their neighboring countries like Bhutan and India.
Ambassador, when you were in Beijing as ambassador, we were going through, I believe, the Doklam crisis at that period. When you confronted the Chinese, I mean, obviously diplomatically and deftly, carefully, because it was obviously a sensitive issue, were they ever in denial of agreements or the law? How did they state their position? Because to us, looking at Doklam and looking at what's been happening since then, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. No, you're right there, Vishnu, that, I don't think they factor in that by doing these kind of things which change the status quo on the ground, they're actually violating some of the bilateral agreements that they have either with India or in this particular case with Bhutan. And I don't know if they're willing to accept that, but as we have seen in Eastern Ladakh, that the Chinese are not willing to accept that they have not just violated, but they have actually gone against the letter of the agreements that exist to maintain peace and tranquility between India and China in the border areas.
Ambassador, therefore, when you see the status of the ties between India and China presently, are you optimistic of there being a lasting peace where we can go back to, say, what the situation was 7, 8, 9 years back when there was relative peace along the LAC?
No, I am unfortunately, Vishnu, and I must confess to you that a lot of people feel surprised when this comes from a former diplomat who's worked a lot in China. But I'm very pessimistic about the India-China relationship. It has actually, over the past 3 years, since the summer of 2020, deteriorated greatly. They continue to be in a pretty bad state of relationship. And I don't see any way out of this unless and until the Chinese restore the status quo ante where the India-China boundary in eastern Ladakh is concerned. Just a quick word on Bhutan. I think this is a time where India needs to stand with Bhutan. What you have revealed in your show today is something that the Bhutanese will follow and track very closely. This is a time when India needs to stand with Bhutan. I'd just like to conclude by saying, Vishnu, that I think the Bhutanese are very smart people, and they realize that the major the major challenge to their identity and their sovereignty and their territorial integrity comes from their north and not from their south.
Yeah, and what India has been doing and continues to do, the King was over here a couple of months back, is to continue to offer active economic assistance, participation in infrastructure projects, to open up more trade, all sorts of things. So India continues to engage Bhutan as the best of friends, right?
Absolutely. And therefore, conversely to what I said about India-China relations, I'm very, very bullish about the strength of relations between India and Bhutan. There are a few analysts and there are a few people who, are a bit negative on this front. I must say that as a former Indian ambassador to Bhutan too, Vishnu, apart from a former ambassador to China, that I'm very, very bullish and very, very positive about the strength and resilience of India-Bhutan relations.
All right, Ambassador Bambawale, wonderful speaking to you. Thank you very much. All of this represents a challenge, a huge one to one of our closest partners, Bhutan, but it also represents a challenge at another level to India. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. We're going to take a short break at this stage. There's a lot more coming up right here on NDTV 24/7.